so much stuff floating around. I don't know. People trying to say they wasn't together.
Basically was trying to get into a threesome. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another Saturday experience known as Kay and Manny. I am Manny. She is Kay. And we are here this Saturday morning. And I know some of y'all are probably up, cleaning up. Some of y'all are doing homework. Some of y'all are just listening to us because y'all ain't got nothing better to do. And yeah. How you doing today, Lady Kay?
I'm fine, Manny. Oh my God, you are off the hook sometimes, you know.
I mean, people don't have nothing to do on a Saturday morning sometimes, you know what I mean?
I feel you on that, but I love your energy, Manny. You know, you keep it funky, you keep it real, you just say what you want to say. But today, everyone, we have a special episode for you today. And the question and the topic of the show is, would you date you? Now, I want you to be honest. I want you to take a good look at yourself from the outside looking in. Give yourself a complete evaluation and ask yourself, would you date you? Manny, would you date you?
That depends on when you ask me that question. Would you ask me that question now, or would you ask me that question a few years ago?
You know what? I like how you said that, because we all have to recognize we all have seasons. And maybe in one particular season, you may have not, because of the baggage you was carrying and maybe the damage you had in your life. Because we all know here on earth, as long as we are here, because even Jesus went through it, as long as you are here, you're going to go through something. But the thing is not to carry those burdens into, seasons in your life. Like, there have to be a point where you have to say, you know what? Okay, I got over this hump, but I'm not going to let that hump define me.
Right.
So that's why it's so imperative to ask yourself, you talking about, oh, I'm such a good person and I'm nice. Of course, in your eyes, we perceive ourselves that way. And it's not to say that you're not. You could be a great person, but you got to also understand too, you may not be a great person for everybody, but you still have to ask that underlying question when you're ready to put yourself out there into the world. Would you even date you? Because I need people to evaluate themselves before they even try to commit to somebody else. How about committing to yourself first? Commit to yourself that you're going to be honest with yourself. Commit to yourself that you're going to be better than you was yesterday, and commit to yourself to make sure that you evolve into the person that you are destined to be. Because again, we have to evaluate some of those things that we go through. You have to analyze your thoughts, your behavior, your demeanor, your attitude. How do you speak to people? Would you want to be around you? That's another question. So I asked you, would you date you? But would you even want to be around yourself? And how do you know if you're not toxic? Because it's so easy to speculate or to hit it on the nail when somebody else is toxic. But what about you? And you know what? It's okay if you are going through in this season. If you're in this season where your thoughts are negative, you are toxic, and you don't want to be around nobody because you see how you feel and you see your attitude and you don't want that to rub on somebody else, then it's okay to say, you know what? I don't want to be with nobody.
But you know what? That's you brought something interesting. When you say when people are negative and people are toxic, here's something that people don't really think about. At least the people that are negative and toxic, they don't even know they're negative and toxic.
Right.
They don't even know that until somebody else brings that to their attention. And when somebody brings that to their attention, and then when it's just more than one person doing such, that's when you realize, okay, wait a minute, I'm that guy. You know what I mean? Right. But let me stop the show real quick. Some of y'all are just flat ass lying when Lady K was asking, would y'all date you? Okay, just stop it. Knock it off. Right? Just stop it, okay? Stop. This is 2021. We're done with the fake news. We're done with the propagandas. We're done with the the nonsense. Start being real with yourselves. Start being real with other people. Okay. If you would date you, if you answer yes, you better make sure that you're on point with everything.
Right.
That's all I got to say about that. But go
Listen,
on.
you don't have to be exactly on point with everything, but there's certain areas in your life you do. But I think honestly, in order for you to be honest with yourself, you have to be in the accepted mode. But in order for you to accept it, you got to have some type of realization. And like you said, you may not see it, but if you got other people coming to you, but here's the kicker, this is how you know you're not ready. If you have somebody telling you about yourself and you get into defense mode, defense is the number one sign that you are not ready to heal and grow, because you can't even hear what that person is telling you. And then if several people keep bringing up the same message to you, then you gotta take some hearing into that. I remember one time I had a girlfriend and I was speaking to her and she was like, well, so and so said this to me, and other person said it to me too. And I said, well, can I be honest with you? I said, if the people are saying the same thing about you, I said, well, maybe it's time for you to evaluate yourself. And I said that to her as a friend with love. And when I said that to her, she was like, oh,
Right.
just like that, because she didn't realize you go. But sometimes, you see how I said it took me to talk to her? Sometimes it takes a special person to talk to you, because you cannot attack people. And I tell people all the time, sometimes you're just the wrong person. Like, they need to hear the message, but you're not the messenger. So sometimes it takes the right messenger to get through to that person and say, listen, you, friendship wise, you are a great person. I can vibe with you. We can kick it. But in the relationship wise, you might be lazy in the relationship. In the relationship, you might not be willing to change your way. So I said this too to people. If you're not ready for stuff like that, stay in your lane. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, I want to talk about a time where I knew I would not date me. And that was like right after my divorce. Like, I was broken. I was just a hot mess. You know what I'm saying? I just had my baby, and I just had my baby and I'm going through a divorce. Like, Lord, why am I going through this? But see, I knew in that moment, because I was so hurt. I said, Lord, I just want you to heal me. And that's all I kept asking for. I just kept asking for healing. But here's the thing, I was thirsty for my healing. I will wake up in the morning and meet him. God, yes, I need you, Father. I can't do this without you. I need you to come into my space. I need you to give me comfort. I need you to give me peace. I need you to tell me it's going to be okay. And he had to show me that. And I just felt the presence of the Lord. See, when you're in that space, when you're down and you feel like the world is on your shoulder and nobody understands you and you in your own quarter, that is the perfect time to quote on the Lord and the perfect time to have a relationship. It does not matter what. I'm not talking about no religion. I'm just talking about you directly having a relationship with the Lord when you know you're in that down space, in that downtime, because that is a time when he rebuilds you. Baby, please believe me, you're going to bounce 10 times harder. Because now that you cultivate and you develop your relationship with the Lord, now you know that you can do all things through him. And that's what that meaning truly means. A lot of people can take it out of context and they don't understand that. But again, in my experience, I knew, and I didn't date for 3 years and I didn't want to. I just focused on me. Right. So that's why I reiterate that question to you. Would you really date you? And if you know you're not ready to be dated, then you should be working on the things you need to fix in your life. It can be emotional. It can be financial. Why would you want to bring somebody into your hot ass mess? You up there driving a BMW with a credit score of 400. Come on, I want a wife. How are you going to take care of your wife? Oh, I'm sorry, because this day. Yes, I said that, Manny.
400 and you, wait a minute.
You got a credit score of 400 and you driving a BMW, I'm fly. Yeah, you flying broke. But I want a wife. Hold on, let me. I have to say this. I got to switch this real quick. For the men who swear they so-called providers, right? I would like to know, how are you supposed to provide for your wife? If you want all these amazing things and you're not willing to fix your credit score or to fix your finances, because every time you get money in your hand, you're spending it. Now, there has been a lot of people that I have spoken to where one spouse is great in that area and the other spouse is not, and then they was able to manage it. If you happen to come in and meet someone and say, you know what, I can give you some tips, but please, I want to tell you this, men, it is not cool when your woman has to come into place and say, you know what, let me just take fully control. You should want to say, you know what, I want to get better in that area. Even though that's her area, you should want to, and not just put the whole experience on her. That's where I have my problem with some men. Because it's okay for when one spouse is stronger than the other in that area and she comes in and she does her thing. But for you to sit back and relax and not to say, hey, I want to do better in this, me personally, I can't rock with you. I don't know about other females, but yeah, I have to say that. But again, that goes back to, would you date you? First of all, if you got children, how would you feel if your child came home and say, hey, daddy, this is my man and we love each other and he loves me, and your daddy can look him up and down and say, he a bum. So, fellas.
Thankfully, I never had that experience, but go ahead.
That's what I'm saying. I want fellas, and fellas, they know this. A lot of men know this. This is why they don't want their daughters to date, and this is why they put the high expectations, because they know how men are, and they know what men expect, and you want your princess, to be taken care of. So it's like, you gotta look at yourself and say, wait, what if you had a daughter? Wouldn't you want that man to step his game up? So you, fellas, step your game up. Now, I already spoke to the females because, we got a lot of emotional problems and we like to scream and cuss. I was she. My emotions was everywhere. And I said, how you expect someone to date you and you constantly screaming? How you want someone to date you and you can't even let them talk without you rolling your neck and your eyes? I'm just being honest.
If someone does that to me, I'll just tune them out. I'm like, all right, I already know what this is. I already know what's wrong.
You can say that, but I'm sure you probably came across a woman you probably took out or went on a date with, and her attitude was like, shh. Now she was sweet. She's a sweet girl, but
I have a story for you, but we'll save it for another episode.
No, because I share my experience, Manny, because I definitely want you to speak on your experience, a time in your life, would you have dated yourself? And if you would not, please elaborate and tell us why.
Well, okay, just like I said before in the beginning of the show, a couple of years ago, the answer would have been straight up no. And the reason why I said straight up no is because I had to deal with some mental issues. You know what I mean? I was going through a depression. I was going through a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? And not to go into great detail of it, but I was dealing with, as my therapist would say, compound grief. And unfortunately, it started in 2015 with the death of my grandfather. And every single year, I was dealing with death of a family member, whether it's my grandmother, whether it's my grandfather, whether it's my aunt, whether it's my cousin being murdered, whether it's whatever. So it's just one of those things where I didn't want to deal with people. And to this day, I'm still somewhat fighting that urge just to be by myself, because a lot of people will tell me, it's just like, why are you always by yourself? I'm comfortable that way. And a lot of times people will think I'm always a loner. I never really looked at myself as a loner, because I looked at myself as just somebody who's okay and content of being by themselves and not really have to answer to anybody. Now, granted, no, I'm not married. No, I don't have any kids. So in that aspect, I don't have to worry about anybody but myself. Now, the three people that I have to worry about I won't say worry about, that I have to look out for, that's a better way, that I have to look out for is my parents and my woman. That's it. That's where it's just like, I have to make sure that they're fine, because if they're not fine, I have to make sure that they're fine, because if their peace is in question, then my peace is in question, because more than likely they're going to tell me everything. And sometimes there are some moments where I don't feel like hearing it, but I have to hear it.
Right.
I mean, it's a fact of life. But I will say this: now in 2021, I'm much better mentally, and yes, I would date myself. However, I have to. I'm a very complex individual, and sometimes I don't give myself up easily, because in the past I would just freely give information out about myself and people would use it against me. So
Right.
in that aspect, I don't really give myself away like that to other people. And even my girl will tell me a lot, you don't open up a lot. Why you don't open up a lot? I mean, it's not so much as me not wanting to, it's me like it's a guard. It's a wall that I've put up over the years, whereas people would not know who I am or use my insecurities or my weaknesses against me.
Right.
So
Man,
it's just one of those moments, you know what I mean? But again, in 2021, I've gotten much better of opening myself up, but not to the degree of where I give everything away right out the gate. You're gonna have to earn that, you know?
and that's what I was going with that. I was going to say, you said a mouthful, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people can relate to what you said, about opening up, because that's earned. You have to earn that, and then at sometimes too, like what I said back in the earlier show, when you got burnt so many times, your guard is up, right? So you're guarding your heart. It even says it in the word, guard your heart. But a lot of people don't understand what that truly means. It doesn't mean to me block out the whole world. It just means be selective who you allow in. And not only that, you don't, like you said, you don't have to give the whole spill. When you just are a person of integrity and this, you're speaking for yourself, the person and the people around you will see that. They will say, okay, yeah, I see, like, you're such an amazing person, but I see you're still going through some stuff. And that's why it's always great just to be kind to one another, because we never know what one is going through. You never know what they are feeling like. Like when you see sometimes on the news, like how people just murdered someone, or some people, they have stabbed someone. It's not because, oh, that was just their one time. And I'm not talking about the person who has a mental illness. That's separate. But it came to a point where that person spazzed out. They lost fully control because it was a trigger behind trigger behind trigger, and they lost it. I know someone, there's a friend of the family where him and his girl they had a toxic relationship. I don't know what that was about. It was real toxic, but it came to a point at one time he lost his cool. And when he lost his cool, he actually ended up stabbing her to death. And now he's behind bars serving 20 years, all because of that one time that he lost his mind, he lost his cool. Now, I don't want to get sidetracked, but I want to say this: would you date you has everything to do with your mental health, because Manny, you hit it on the head. Your mental state. People need to be in the right mental space to date. You know what I'm trying to say? You don't know. You might be dating a psychopath. I'm just being honest. It's all truth here, because
whether you're dating a psychopath or you're dating a time bomb or you're dating somebody who's this close from jumping off, finding a high point of something and jumping off of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
and
it's just like
people too. I have to say this as well too. I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off, but I have to say this as well too. You know how many people that I met that they said they met their significant other at a point of their life where they thought, when they felt they didn't want to be here no more. Okay, that right there, that's really significant. When they said when that person came into their life, that person even had no idea that person was thinking about taking their own life, but because that person came in their life at the perfect timing, they start to see things from a different perspective, and then they wanted to change, and then they wanted to heal. And I also have to say this too: when you are at that moment of what's the word I'm looking for? When you're at that moment of healing and you're at that moment of taking yourself to the next level, it is not your spouse or your significant other responsibility to heal you. That's between you and God. So do not put that type of responsibility on that person when you are finally ready to date. Because remember, it's a transition, because you got to ask yourself mentally, am I ready for this? And then physically, am I willing to put in the work? And now that I say I'm at this place where I'm physically well-being, emotional well-being, now you got to ask yourself, am I willing to come out my comfort zone? But how about this? 9 times out of 10, when you're with someone and it's flowing, you don't even have to make those adjustments. You just do it willingly because that's the right person. And that's how you know that's the right relationship. Because it just flows and it doesn't even feel like you have to do and like pulling you don't even have to, because you just want to. And you allow yourself to relax a little bit, because now you come with more wisdom, and now you know what to bring to the table because you do have something to bring to the table. Right. Don't be coming to the table with just your knife and your fork.
Who does that?
A lot of people. Remember we talked about the hobos? The hobos.
Moving on. You all right now.
You said who does that? I gave you an answer. And I'm sorry, there's a lot of hobos out there. See, that's why we got to be careful. We got to be guarded up, because people be having some crazy intentions. So this all goes together. You know, would you date you? Because you're evaluating yourself, right? You're making sure that your mental state is good, your physical state is good, and that you're willing to do certain things in a relationship. All of these factors, and this is some great stuff. Would you agree, Manny?
I mean, this is great stuff, and then this is also great a teachable moment towards a lot of people, because I run into people now who feels like they want to go. I mean, especially with this pandemic, they're not going out as much, but they want to be in the comfort of somebody else. But they have to work out their issues. Like, for instance, I have a friend of mine who has an issue with patience, and I'll be honest with you, she does not have a great deal of patience, especially when it comes to adults. All right. Huh?
She needs to be by herself.
Well, she needs to be by herself and understand that patience is a fruit of the spirit on top of something that you need, because let's be honest with ourselves. We gonna get on each other's nerves a lot.
Right.
Okay? We're gonna get on, I mean, there's gonna be moments where I'm going to do something and my significant other is going to look at me sideways, and my significant other does something and I'm going to look at her with the crazy eyes and everything, where I can just basically burn a hole through her soul and everything just by looking at her. And it's just one of those moments where everybody's relationship is going to have that moment where there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows. Right. However, you have to, like you say, you got to willing to put in the work to do everything. Not so quick to run out when there's just a rocky moment. Now, trust me, with my significant other, there were moments where there was rocky, but I chose to stick with it. However, there were moments where I'm just like, ask myself, okay, can I deal with this? Is this something I can deal with this long term? Because the answer is no. I have to have that conversation with her. But it's just one of those moments where it's just like, okay, if this is just a one, and I explained this to her, if this is just a one-off, okay, I can deal with that. But if this continues on and on and on and on and on, then yeah, we're gonna have to have that conversation. It is not gonna be a comfortable conversation either. Right. And I let her know that, you know what I mean?
Manny, you must be in my head, because I was gonna go to the next flow of, you have to have that open communication with your spouse and be honest and check in. And everything you just said is checking in. Hey, how often, that's another thing too, you got to ask yourself, how often are you checking in with your spouse? And checking in means just having these real conversations and saying, hey, are we good? A lot of people are afraid of that. It's like, don't be afraid of that. If you really want a healthy relationship, a sustainable relationship, you have to have those honest conversations. And a lot of people are not ready for those, but that's how you know when you're truly ready to date, and someone willing to date you because you're there. And that's the thing, you want to be on that same level. You cannot date someone where they're everything that that you're willing, you're bringing, and you're ready for, and they're doing the opposite. It's just not going to work. And guess what? I had that. I was at a point of my life where I was like, okay, I got this. I finally got this right, Lord. And I got this down pat. Okay, cool. And I felt like this person was a test, and he came into my life. And don't get me wrong, he's a nice person, sweet person, but he got some major issues, and he was in a dark place. He tried to act like he wasn't, but he was in a dark place. And I said, you got some more digging and work to do on you, because you're not going to spaz that on me and think I'm going to sit here and accept that type of behavior. Not this one. But that just goes to show you, your place of maturity and where you're at. Now, Manny, before we leave, is there anything that you might want to say to the audience?
One thing I want to say to y'all is understand that you are a different individual than your better half. And you have to not rush the process. You have to let the process play out. And I understand that a lot of people may give you grief about, well, you dated this person for 2 years. Y'all still ain't ready for you. Listen, what worked for you may not work for somebody else. Right. So you have to understand that the process is different with everybody because there's different factors involved. Right. Okay, does this person work 24/7? Does this person have kids? Is this person long distance? Is this person dealing with other elements such as his or her family? Things like that. So you have to understand that, life has a way of intertwining certain things, but you got to let the process play out. That's all I got to say about that.
Absolutely. So everyone, we want to hear from you. We want you to go right now to our Lady K Chat Facebook page and tell us what you thought about today's show. Let us know, are you willing to date you? Let us know. We want to hear from you. So with that being said, everyone, we thank you for listening. Continue to watch us here at every Saturday at 11 a.m. at the Lady K Chat Podcast here on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And you can also listen to us on the fly with Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can reach us at www.ladykenterprisesinc.com. And everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. Lady K.